Welcome to Ken's Korner Podcast, Season 3. Get ready for expert analysis and rising wrestling stars. Now here we go with your host, Ken Judge.
Hi everyone, this is Ken from Ken's Korner, and I'm back with the fan panel. And today's topic is the trade deadline and our excitement, and maybe not so much excitement in what we've done. I want to introduce our panel again. I'm Ken, and to my left is George, coming all the way from Calgary. George, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Mr. Paul Hendricks, welcome back to the fan panel, sir. All the way from Madrid, not Barcelona. He is all the way from Madrid. How are you doing today? Well, I guess it's really late there, 11 o'clock there. How are you today, Paul?
Thanks, Ken. It's great. It's a good place to be in the winter time, but following the Maple Leafs is not always easy. The earliest the games get played is at 10 after 1 in the morning, and so I get to watch them. But it's a late night getting to do so. But it's been an entertaining winter, regardless of how late I've had to stay up to watch the blue and white.
Yeah, I agree. And from our downtown Toronto, our heart of a fans of Leaf Nation, Mr. Gord, how are you doing today?
I'm good, guys. It's freezing outside, -9. Snow's blowing away out here, but welcome to the Canadian weather.
Yeah, hockey season, right? It's hockey season.
Exactly.
And JT, and you would think it's cold up there in Thunder Bay, but I've been informed that it's +9 and the ice is melting. How are you doing today, JT?
We are doing well indeed.
Awesome. No, we're going to get right into this. And the last time we talked, we believed that the Leafs would make a move for a defenseman. And in fact, we did. Let's go around the board here and just talk about the two defensemen we brought in. And does it fit the needs or your expectations on what we were going to bring in? George, let's start with you. Our two defensemen, the two new guys on the team.
Lyubushkin, having him back is definitely I think a good idea. I'm glad of that. And then having a big 6'5", 240 guy back there helping us out in D, I'm really impressed and good. I'm glad about that.
Awesome. Mr. Hendrick, did it fit what you were thinking the Leafs would do?
Yeah, I pretty much think it was what they were going to do, because let's face it, I mean, we've had a couple of big splashes the last couple of years with Kyle Dubas, who did the best he could and really took a lot off the shelf to bring in what he brought in to give the Leafs a chance to go deep and win a Stanley Cup possibly. They won a series last year. They were no match for the goaltending and I think just the strength overall of Florida. So there wasn't much to give out, and you don't want to sacrifice a great deal of your future as well, namely prospects in terms of Minton and Cowan. And so, no, I'm happy with what they've done. They've got an elite group up front, and you look at all teams in the National Hockey League who will be contending for the Stanley Cup. There isn't one team that is a perfect fit. It might look that way, but there isn't. And I agree with Brad Treliving. Go with the guys you've got who've been here for the better part of 7 and 8 years and let them see what they can do.
I agree with you 100% on your assessment there. I agree with the fact that we do have the players in place there, and I think we proved it in some of the stretches of hockey that we played, and the rejuvenation of Mr. Samsonov. Gord, what do you think of Joel Edmondson and Ilya Lyubushkin?
I think bringing Lyubushkin back gives them a guy that can hit on the back end, and you can never go wrong with a 6'4", 6'5" defenseman. Stay-at-home defenseman, can shoot the puck, and man, can he hit. He threw a hit in the game the other night, and I was quite surprised. He's a big boy, but man, can he ever hit. I think it's good what they did. They also got a fourth-line center, the guy from Minnesota, and honestly, he's a penalty kill specialist, and they need it. Because if Marner's not in the game, they need somebody to be able to step up there, and play on the penalty kill.
Exactly. JT, since Gord brought it up, What is your assessment on his first game in Toronto of Connor Dewar amongst the two defensemen? How did you feel in that Montreal game?
You know what? I think he is doing the job that he is expected to do. I think once he starts getting into our systems and getting an understanding of how things are rolling out, he's just going to get better and better and better. I agree with everybody on the panel that doing more is sometimes less. So I think they would have sold farms and did a lot of crap to get players, like a lot of fans and wannabe GMs were saying. But at the end of the day, we do have the pieces and parts, and we just needed a couple of little backup plans, so to speak. I think that's where Edmondson comes in. He's a good, strong guy in the back end. Bush coming back is a nice right-hand shot with some size and some physicality, some ability to move a puck. All of them. I think we did well in every aspect, and let's play with what we got and see where we go.
I agree. I agree with that. Now, I've been defending on my radio station, Whistler Radio. My co-host, he's not here today, has some family engagements, Joe Moyer, and he's been very critical of the play of one William Nylander. Let's go around the board and let's get your assessment. Do you agree with him, George, on his he thinks that we should have traded William Nylander, that his dipsy doodling gets us into trouble and it's not playoff hockey? What do you think?
I like Nylander's play. Yeah, his dipsy doodle at the blue line does really hurt us sometimes. But he is good with the puck, and I do like what he does. And when he doesn't do any wrong, doesn't do as good as he should be doing, the coach tells him, and he steps up again. So he just maybe needs a little reminder to do the right things, and he'll be good. I like Nylander.
I thought it was just me, because he always calls me the glass half full guy, and maybe I am when it comes to the Maple Leafs. Paul, I seen you shaking your head vehemently there. I know that you're going to be defending Mr. Nylander.
Of course, and Ken, it breaks down to what are you going to get for him, and how do you replace a talent like that? Is William perfect? No, but he's damn near perfect. And you don't give up. I wouldn't say he's a generational talent, but he's pretty good and close to it. Mitch Marner comes under the same scrutiny from time and time again. They would be lined up 31 teams deep to get a crack at either one of these two players. So no, you've got to keep them. You've got to live with their warts. And that's the problem with covering a team or being in love with a squad. You love them for certain reasons and you don't for others. But other teams and fan bases certainly wouldn't look at William Nylander the same way Leafs Nation looks at them, and with all due respect as to how Joe looks at them. So no, you've got to hang on to these guys. There are few and far between. The Leafs, at least going into the postseason, are going to have two good lines going head to head. You remove William Nylander, not that he's going to go anywhere at this point in time, and you've got a major hole to fill, and you don't have two lines anymore. So no, you've got to stick with him, his warts and all. But he's a pretty good-looking player, despite his off nights and obviously the mistakes that get made that make him look lazy and all of this. But simple answer: no. You keep him, and Joe, you keep him.
Yeah, well, I pointed out the fact that he's had a 17, a 13, and a 10-game point streak. And I said, Joe, what happens if he runs off another 15 games? Will you even remember that play? Gord, do you agree with the panel so far on William Nylander?
I do agree with the panel so far. I will give Joe his moment by saying, yes, I've said it many times. The fancy plays, the dipsy doodle that Nylander does. However, I will say Mike Johnson did say multiple times that 95% of the time that William Nylander does that play, that puck ends up in the back of the net. So he had one little blip where the guy pokes the puck. Okay, we move on, way you go. But I'll take 95% of the time he's scoring off that little dipsy doodle play at the line over a one goal. I'm gonna disagree with Joe in the fact that we should trade him at all. 17 games, 13 games. He's right up there with the points. Yes, sometimes he does get a little lackadaisy coming back, but in terms of his forecheck, there other than Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, there's nobody that gets in there the way that he does, takes the puck, and honestly can maneuver in the offensive zone like he can. I don't think we should trade him. I think I agree with Paul. He's one of the best players we've got. Teams would be lining up, every team offering whatever they could if the Leafs were to even attempt that to trade him.
Yeah, I agree. JT, it's your turn, and I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say. You're going to agree with everyone here. I'm sorry, Joe, it's not your day. JT, am I right? Do you agree with the rest of the guys in this panel?
Yeah, if Joe is basing that upon one lost puck at a blue line the other day, yeah, you can't base it on that because, like everyone said, 9 times out of 10 he makes that play. That was the one time he got a lucky stick check and got a poke check on him, and then he lost a puck. And then I heard people screaming he didn't back check. Well, he knows they're not chumps. They know if they've got a step going the wrong way and that guy's got a step and a half going the right way, you're not catching him anyway. You're there shadowing and hopefully picking up a rebound if your goalie makes that save to turn that puck around and go the other way. You're not going to catch him on a back check.
Yeah, you have a good point. Joseph Woll, I think, should have probably helped him out and made that save.
It happens, right? So it was a good play. It happened. It burned us. It is what it is. Move on. But you don't get rid of a generational talent like Willie Nylander for that. Like, you just don't. We've got 3 of them on our team that are generational players that you don't see on the same team. You usually get lucky enough to get 1 on a team. Never mind having 3 of these guys. Like, it's astounding.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm not so sure Corey Perry out in Edmonton would agree with that assessment.
Who cares?
He says the only generational talents out there were Gretzky and Crosby and Lemieux. So, but
Yeah,
and maybe even McDavid. I think that's probably why he plays in Edmonton. But anyway, I disagree with him as well, and I believe a lot of people in Leaf Nation are quite happy that he didn't land in Toronto anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
George. I know that this is one of your favorite players on the team. You actually went out to try and get his jersey, but your wife somehow bought you his dad's jersey. Let's talk about Max Domi, not Ty, although Ty in the stands has really been fun to see. And the play of Todd, oh my God, now I'm all over the board here, guys. I'm sorry. Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi. Let's talk about these guys.
Well, I'm a big fan of Ty Domi and Max Domi. So I mean, yeah, we did have a mistake there about getting a jersey, but that's fine. I'm good with the jersey I got. Max is he's really good. He's quick, and he can sneak in there. And he's got a beautiful pass. He's pretty close with Marner of how he passes, and he can get the puck to you. And Bertuzzi being right there to help out, that's awesome. And it's really good to see Bertuzzi stepping up now and at the right time when we need him. And so I'm happy with both of them. They're really good. They're really good for our team, and I'm good with that.
Paul, do you believe that this is what we've all been waiting for? I think we've actually spoke about this. These guys are playoff performers. Is this them ramping up for the playoffs?
Yeah, I hope so. We had a chance to see what Max could do in Dallas and with Carolina. I've known Max since he's been 3 years old. He's a great person. He's a talented guy. And I think he and Tyler are now starting to come together. It's not an easy deal to transition to a market like Toronto, even though Max grew up in it. But he didn't play in it like his dad did. He's experiencing that now. I think the big carrot for both these guys we're talking about is they're unrestricted free agents. I mean, they're playing for contracts next year. And I think, at least from Max's perspective, he might want to stick around in Toronto. This is going to be a very good hockey team for a few more years to come. That breakaway goal he scored in Montreal, outstanding speed, tenacity, determination. All of these clichéic descriptions come into it. But I think he can really help impact this team when things get greasy in the postseason, as they're going to be likely against the Boston Bruins. And we know Tyler Bertuzzi is capable of doing such. It's a marathon this season. It takes an awful long, and I know we like in Leafs Nation to micromanage every shift of every game, but now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the postseason, and I'm happy with the way these two guys have come around at this period in time. It's why the Leafs got them last summer.
I agree. I don't know if you could say it any better than that, Gordon, JT, but I'm going to give you your chance. Gord, your feelings on Mr. Bertuzzi and Mr. Domi.
Well, I do believe on the last fan pedal, I called out Mr. Bertuzzi and said he needs to kick it into gear. Domi, I knew would take a little bit, but once he gets going, I do agree with Paul. Max Domi did grow up here, but I don't think he ever knew what the Toronto media was really like in regards to that. In terms of their play, I think it's phenomenal. They've kicked it in. They're all clicking. It doesn't really matter who they're playing with right now. They're playing as a unit. Honestly, the pass from Calle Yarncrook, a lot of people have been very critical of him as well. He played phenomenal. The pass Max Domi gave him a lot of credit and said the flip, he was not expecting it to be as accurate as it was, and he just took off. Todd Bertuzzi gets the hat trick and just keeps going. He's back to the grit. He's back to hitting. He's starting to shoot more, and he's giving it his all. And again, like Paul said, they're playing for contracts, but I think both of them will be back next season, or I'm hoping they're both back next season.
Yeah, I agree. And I might add that Tyler Bertuzzi scored that hat trick on his birthday. I don't know if I think there's another 4 players that have ever done that in NHL history. So I find that very amazing. We're breaking a lot or adding to a lot of records in the NHL this year. JT, you're the last guy here. What is your assessment on these boys?
I think they're coming to where they needed to be. I said that back at the beginning of the fan panel. There's a lot of people that are raving on them and saying, hey, we overpaid. I said, well, you change into a system like Toronto's. Toronto has a different system, and it takes a little while to get the groove and find out what's going where. They found that groove now, and you can see it in their games, game in and game out. What they bring to the table is what all of these additions have done, and I think that last Boston game, we lost it, but that was not about picking up 2 points. That was about making a statement. And right from the get-go, McCabe feeding Marchand, and just it was a statement game from start to finish. And now we are living rent-free in the Bruins' heads. In my mind, they know, oh boy, these guys are mean, they are physical, they are finishing hits, they are matching us cheap for cheap and hit for hit. And I think we just got into the Bruins' heads that last game. I give them a golf clap on that. That wasn't about 2 points. That was a statement game. And Max Domi and Bertuzzi were solid parts in that. Like Bertuzzi just fed him in that fight.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that was it. That was a statement game front to back in my mind. And, I'm proud of our boys, and I'm waiting to see what they can do.
Well, I agree with you 100% because the next day on trade deadline day, what did Boston do? They picked up Mr. Pat Maroon. So
Yeah.
Pat Maroon, meet Mr. Reeves. So Mr. Reeves,
Yeah.
I believe, is going to be playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But that's a totally different story. I think we all agree with that anyway. Reeves has played his way onto the team. But let's talk about our goaltending. And I'm just going to ask you guys just to give it a one name of the 3. Mr. Joseph Woll, Mr. Ilya Samsonov, and last but not least, our third string goalie who's sticking around, Martin Jones. Who's going to be in that net game 1? George?
Like I said, I became a Samsonov fan again. It's hard not to flip back and forth. But when he's standing in like that, you gotta like the guy that's stopping the puck. I like you were asking. I'm with Samsonov. I think Wall needs a little bit more time.
Yeah. If I had a choice, I'm going to go on board and say my game one goalie would be Ilya Samsonov. I believe he's went from the brink of not playing in the NHL at all this year, right back to, I believe he's, 14-2 in 2.3 goals against average since he's been back. Paul, what is your game one starter? Who?
Well, I think it's going to be Ilya Samsonov, guys. And the reason I say this, I love Joseph Woll, but he's missed 3 months due to a high ankle sprain. So he's got to come back. You just don't hop onto the conveyor belt, which is going a million miles an hour, and maybe get back to where you once were. But that said, what do we've got? 5 more weeks to play. I don't think the decision is quite made, but it's great to see Samsonov back to where he once was. I think the playoff experience that he garnered last year, he too is an unrestricted free agent with plenty to prove, but I think he's got his act together mentally, physically, and I think Joseph Woll's coming from a little further back because of that ankle sprain. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him coming back as well, because he's got another month and change before things could certainly change as to who Sheldon Keefe is going to start. But you asked the question. I'm going to agree with our panel so far and say Ilya Samsonov.
Gord?
I'm gonna say Samsonov, for sure. I'm gonna agree with Paul if Samsonov does have another hiccup and Wall gets back into it again. I could see that. But if the playoffs were to start today, you have to put Samsonov in there. He's been phenomenal for us, standing on his head. And I think they need to give Wall a chance to get back into the gameplay, things like that, and let him grow back into it. If he hadn't have got hurt, I think we would have all been having a bit of a different discussion on who would have been starting, because he was on a roll before he got hurt. But if the playoffs started today, I'll agree. Samsonov, absolutely.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Because none of us would have said Samsonov just 6 weeks ago. It's amazing. Yeah. JT, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say you're going to say Samsonov as well. Oh, you're not. Oh, there's someone different.
So, I think I said it before, and I think I posted on one of those fan group things there. Samsonov went through a little bout of what I would call his I suck-itis, and it's not chronic. It was just something he had to get over. And once he got over that, I knew he'd come back. He's a goalie of goalies. He's really, really good. I honestly think Woll has the ability to come back in the next 5 weeks and maybe make a statement. But regardless of how it works out, if we draw Boston on that first round, it's Samsonov, because Woll has had them 3 times. They've scored 4 goals on all three matches. They've kind of rang him up a little bit. He's made big saves, but they have rang him up. So I think if they come in as a 50-50 and we draw Boston first round, it's going to be Samsonov. No questions asked. If we draw somebody else, we might get Woll.
Okay, we're running down to the end of our show here, guys, and this is a 2-part question, and we're going to start with you, JT. We're going to go backwards. Yeah, it's a pretty easy one. Who do we play first round, and who is your Maple Leaf MVP to date?
I see us having to play Boston first round, unfortunately. Just the way the numbers are crunching out, I don't think we're not going to move around much from here. So we will be Boston first round. My MVP of so far this year, Austin Matthews, 1,000% all day, every day.
Thank you.
A monster.
Thank you, JT. Gord, same question.
I'm going to agree with JT based on the numbers and how it's going. We're going to play Boston first round, unfortunately. I hope we run them over like a Mack truck. MVP, this could be a few. I'm going to go with Austin Matthews as well, just based on goal production, his gameplay. And you could also say, as much as Joe doesn't like it, William Nylander's up there with point production as well.
Yeah, I do want to point out before I ask Paul and George this final question. Every one of us agreed to only 50 goals for Austin Matthews. I think we're a little off on that assessment this year, guys. I don't know. He might get 65 at this pace. Maybe that's 70, but I think we're just a little bit off, and I think we're all pretty proud and happy about that. Paul, your answer now. Who do we play first round, and who is our MVP?
It's going to be Boston, and I was there for all 3 games, 7 losses, covering the team, and Reimer and Nets and the Great Dane and the other 2 games. Goaltending is going to be so important in this, and I think Ilya Samsonov has what it will take to help his club get over the edge and beat Boston. And the Bruins, they know what happened last year in that first round series. That'll be a motivator for them, but it'll also be a shocking reminder of what can happen in a single game series. Team MVP, I'm going to go 1A, 1B, and I'm going to go Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, because Austin is Austin because of God-given talent and work ethic, but because of Mitch Marner as well. And in a year from now, Mitch Marner is going to be the highest paid player in this hockey club, and you just don't get that for being the second best player on the team. So I split the MVP award between those 2 guys.
I want to add in William Nylander, so I'm going to go 1A, B, and C with you, Paul, since we're going that way. George, you're the final one here. What is your answer?
Well, I'm agreeing with the panel that it's going to be Boston, and with our last game against them, I think we showed them that we're going to come out fighting. And for the MVP, I'm going to go with Paul there, and it's the Marner Matthew. If it wasn't for Marner being there passing, Matthews might not have as many. He's a good player, but a good passer makes the goals. So I'm going with Marner Matthew.
Yeah, I agree with that. So,
Hey, Ken?
yes.
Well, you agree that the game in Montreal that Matthews looked lost without Marner?
He did look a little bit lost. You're right, but I do believe he's still fighting the fluid just a little bit. So.
Oh no, I mean the passes, he was so used to it. I think he was kind of lost without his little buddy right beside him there.
Yeah. So you think just on the last note, Gord, do you believe that Marner starts on Matthews' line game 1?
I do. I think Marner will be right there. In terms of who they put beside him, honestly, that's kind of up in the air, Ken, because there's quite a few that could step up there.
Yeah,
Easy could be there. They've had Domi there. They've had a couple of. I mean, Matthew Nyes was there, but honestly, I feel him playing with Domi right now. He's got the production. He's in there moving more. So I don't know who's going to be that other winger for him, but it's going to be Matthews and Marner.
Yeah.
McMahon is a good offer.
Yeah, there's lots of options out there. Okay, guys, unfortunately I'm going to have to say bye to everyone and just go on a roll here a little bit. George, all the way from Calgary, thanks for bringing the Leaf Nation to the Western Coast. Mr. Hendrick, thank you so much for joining us here from Madrid, Spain. It's definitely an honor for you to join our fan panel. Gord from the heart of downtown Toronto in Leaf Nation, sir, thank you so much. And JT, thank you coming from Northern Ontario and keeping us strong in the North. Thanks a lot, guys.
I got one funny thing to say. When I met them at their outdoor thing, I called Marner, I called him Mitchy Styles, and he seemed to like it because he was more styling on his way into that game than anybody I seen.
Yeah, he's got quite the character, even in some of his goal dances that he kind of rubs people the wrong way, doesn't he?
He's a fun kid.
Awesome, guys. I'm sorry, but I do have to go. Paul, have a great night and go to bed. Go Leafs, go everyone. And I can't wait. Let's get back your rate as soon as we know who we're going to face off in the first round. And let's talk about the potential Leaf lineup come first round. All right, boys?
Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, George.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you so much for everyone for being on Ken's Corner. My name's Ken, and this is Ken's Corner. Good night, guys.
Thank you, sir.